Good morning and welcome to the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I am Lisa Moore, your intern minister here, and I'm joined today by Service Associate Ilya Kowalchuk, with hymn leaders Clara Kelly, Amy Austin, Mary Stackpole, and Tad Coriath, as well as special music from One Voice and the Santa Clara University Chamber Singers. Our tech ushers today are Mary Stackpole and Deborah Mensch. They help things run very smoothly. And also the most important people to mention are all of you who make this place wonderful, and you are the reason that we are here. As I say the welcome words today, I invite you to shift into gallery mode if you haven't already done so, and scroll through the screens so you can experience the lovely diversity of this congregation, because without you and without it, there would be no us. You are all welcome here today. In all the beauty of languages, cultures, skin tones, shapes, and sizes that come together in your uniqueness, you are welcome here. In all the ways you express and experience gender, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love, you are welcome here. Christian, pagan, humanist, Jew, Buddhist, mystic, Muslim, Unitarian Universalist are still on the path trying to figure it all out. With all of the traditions that inform your spiritual life, you are welcome here today. No matter how long you are away, nor how soon you will return, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears, you are welcome here. You are invited to join with us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you here today. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of all people. We acknowledge that we live in a time when Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, and Latino, Latinx, Hispanic people are devalued, violated, and killed because of systemic racism. We also acknowledge that our community is located on the lands once stewarded by the Arapaho, Ute, Sioux, and Cheyenne people. Our congregation honors Indigenous legacy and respects the enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous peoples and their traditional homelands through our connections with Right Relations Boulder. We commit ourselves to becoming anti-racist in ourselves and in our institutions by taking actions to dismantle racism in our society, taking guidance from and while honoring the lived experience of those who identify as BIPOC, and developing personal relationships between cultures. Our vision is to help build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community within and beyond our walls. I have several announcements this morning. Just a reminder that our senior minister, Reverend Lydia Ferrante Roseberry, is on a well-deserved Sabbath until August 10th. Also, after the service, Sarah Jackson, who is the director of Casa de Paz, will be joining Ilya and myself in a breakout room to answer questions about Casa de Paz and immigration justice. We had the Welcome Strangers documentary, it's about 21 minutes long, is available through this weekend. So if you have not had a chance to watch that, I highly recommend it. It is quite moving. Our Inquirer series for newcomers and curious folks continues today in another breakout room. Host Sherry Price, music director Tad Coriath, and AV and music volunteer Deborah Mensch will talk about worship at Boulder Valley UU Fellowship and our liturgical year and answer all your questions. Everybody is welcome. David Burros will be hosting a Building Teams Q&A breakout room to answer questions from members if they are wondering about some tasks that we are asking volunteers to take on for maintaining the building when we move in. If you're interested in the new building teams and cannot make it to David's breakout room today, please email him to volunteer or ask your questions. His email is going into the chat now. On that note, if there's any other, if it's not just buildings that you need, but if you're not just interested on building teams, but on any volunteers, there's plenty of things that we still need your ministry for in the building, filing, all the things. So there is space for that. If you're new here, we are glad you found us and hope that this virtual community you can experience, and hope that in this virtual community you can experience the warmth and love of this congregation. Each Sunday can be a little bit different here, so please do come back a few times and get to know us. If you want to get better connected, please see the chat window for the link to our first-time visitors page, or email your information to our office manager, Carol at officemanager@bvuuf.org. Her email will be in the chat window as well. And do be sure to check out the fellowship calendar and Connections Weekly for all the opportunities we have to stay connected, and there are quite a few. Finally, if any of you newbies would like to introduce yourself in the chat, please do. We love to know who is among us. All are invited to stay. We'll have some virtual coffee hour breakout rooms after the service, or you could also join one of the other offerings that I just spoke about. If you have a chalice at home, you can light it with me as I light our fellowship chalice. So we all know where our chalices are. Please write in the chat, chalice lit in, and the name of your town. I'll say the words along, and please say the words along with me as I light our chalice. And I will go slowly so you can follow along. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. And now, I'll sing our bowl again, inviting you to draw in deeper to the present moment and this, our beloved community. During last week's service, I asked what types of ministry you bring to the ship, what you can bring, and name some of the many types of ministry and where they could be utilized. Pledging is an important part of your ministry back to the congregation. Sharing with others what Boulder Valley UU Fellowship means to you and why you pledge is also ministry. And with that, I now invite Don Ingelstad to share his story.
Good morning. My name is Don Ingelstad. I joined the fellowship in January of 2019 after many years in the United Church of Canada and the United Methodist Church. My wife of 46 years was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer in July of 2013. At that time, Judy and I had been attending Arvada United Methodist Church. As her health started to rapidly decline, the trips to Arvada became increasingly difficult for her. At the recommendation of friends, Judy and I started attending the ship in the middle of 2018. From day one, we felt the love of this community. When Judy died in September of that year, my family and I decided to have her memorial service at the fellowship. Reverend Lydia and Tad thoughtfully incorporated inputs from my family and me and designed and conducted Judy's service with kindness and care. They treated my family and our friends like we were all longtime members of BVUUF. So I must admit that although it was primarily proximity and convenience that brought Judy and me to the fellowship, it was love and compassion that made me stay. My involvement in the ship is focused mostly on learning about Unitarian Universalism, the numerous activities both inside and outside BVUUF, and how inner depth leads to outer focus. I've done this through Sunday services, participating in a covenant group, and attending and facilitating adult education classes, as well as being a member of the adult education team. My outside activities have been limited to displaying my Black Lives Matter sign along Highway 287 and making calls in support of UU the Vote. A few weeks ago, I accompanied my friend Trudy to the fellowship when she signed the membership book. As Lydia took us through the facility, I was struck not only by the beauty of the space, but by the things we hopefully have to look forward to later on this year, like in-person Sunday services with meaningful messages from Reverend Lydia, Lisa, and our service associates, plus inspiring music from Tad and Emily, One Voice, and the band. I could also imagine young faces in the sanctuary and even younger ones in the School of the Spirit wing, where Jessica and her team would be teaching religious education to children and youth of all ages. Looking into the sanctuary, I could visualize BIPOC speakers in the pulpit counseling us on how to become anti-racists and true allies in our mutual quest for racial justice. On a lighter note, I was wondering where I would be sitting in our beautiful new sanctuary. This fantasizing about the future encouraged me to fill in and submit my pledge form. For those of us who have not already pledged, I would encourage you to engage in a similar exercise of gratitude and hope for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Just replace my words with your own and think about them as you make your pledge. Some 30 years ago, during pledge season, I was walking out of my Houston area United Methodist Church with my dear friend, Reverend Lewis. I told Lewis that I was planning to give until it hurt that particular year because I really wanted us to start a program to house homeless people in our facility to help them get back on their feet. He looked me squarely in the eye and said, "Don, you got it all wrong. You need to give until it feels good." So I did, and we were able to start the program, and it is still in full swing to this day. However, I doubt that my good feeling pledge was what put us over the top. So please pledge until it feels good. Your pledge, when combined with others, will move us one step closer to becoming the beloved community we all strive to be. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for sharing that, Don. It's wonderful, and I like the idea of giving until it feels good. Currently, we are at 65% of our way to the goal of $489,740. I want to add in 62 cents just because it sounds like it should go there, with half of the ship's folks pledging. That is amazing and great work. We are in the final stretch of the stewardship drive. And I imagine that with this final stretch, all the wonderful things that I see, that this will make that goal. If you need a little bit more inspiration, though, we have Reverend Lydia here to share that with you and to get your pledge in.
Hello, beloveds. You are watching this video a few weeks after I've left for sabbatical and right towards the end of the pledge drive. And if this is like any other pledge year, I'm gonna guess that about this time, the proposed budget with all of the dreams and hopes that folks have for the coming year of what we can do, and the pledges that have come in do not yet match. This is a time that can be hair-raising for our elected leaders and our finance team. And so I want to encourage you, if you are someone who has not quite gotten around to bringing your pledge in, please do so. If you haven't gotten to the chance to respond to your steward's request to just sit down and have a conversation, please do so. I know some of you are feeling less connected to congregational life this year with the pandemic, and you might be waiting until the coming year to see how things shake out. I want to assure you that as soon as we are able to be in this building, there's going to be some incredible programming and incredible opportunities for us to connect in both spiritual depth and our justice making. But we have to be able to plan for that. And even in the midst of this, our staff are still all working hard in preparation for those days, and also just doing everything we do on Zoom. So if you haven't made a pledge yet, I want to really encourage you to do so. And if you were thinking of holding off on making a pledge, I want to encourage you to maybe just make a pledge now anyway on faith that this congregation is here for you and will continue to be here for you. And for those of you, and I know there are those among you who are unable to make a pledge, please know that you can have an exemption. You can talk to Lisa more about that. And you're welcome to participate in all of the congregational programs and activities that would feed your soul and bring you inspire you to bringing justice into the world. So hang tight. This pandemic will be over, and if you have it in you to be able to visualize all the things we can do and make your pledge now, if you haven't already, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Now, at this point, my name is Ilya Kowalchuk. I am one of your service associates, and we get to listen to a musical rendition of The New Colossus, which is a poem by Emma Lazarus, which you might know because it's placed at the foot of the Statue of Liberty. At the time of writing, Lazarus was involved in charitable work for refugees and was active in aiding Russian Jews who were trying to escape to the United States. Please enjoy this musical rendition of The New Colossus.
Give me your the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these boundless tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. I lift my lamp beside the golden
Today's service is about a commitment to immigration justice. Immigration justice conjures up many different images and ideas. Families torn apart, massive detention centers with barren walls, run by ICE, the most provocative and descriptive name. Racism, exclusion, profiling, the language barrier, the legal system, paperwork in how many languages? This notion of immigration justice conjures a tidal wave of emotion and seemingly insurmountable obstacles, creating fear, confusion, and overwhelm. This problem is created by failed and/or hostile nation states. How can I, you might ask, make any difference? When I began thinking of my contribution to this service, I kept getting lost, feeling wholly inadequate and unqualified to be here in the face of this well-funded and federally approved system working to further white supremacy, keeping BIPOC people out of our United States. So what could I possibly have to offer? Well, I stand before you, an educator through and through, as my 2 teenage children will most certainly attest. I have been involved in education for more than 2 decades and in many different capacities, working with 2-year-olds, all the way up through incarcerated adults. I got into education to make a difference in the world, and still, with self-aware naivete, try to do so. Teaching math at a local high school is my day job now, and through that, I realized that I'm doing what I can to fight for immigration justice. A few years ago, 1/4 of the freshmen at my high school weren't passing Algebra 1. I know, some of you are silently, or maybe not so silently, cursing your Algebra 1 teachers right now. But stay with me on this one, because success in Algebra 1 is a key indicator of graduation rates, of advanced class placement, of college acceptance, and further success in life. So who were these failing kids? Unfortunately, and not unexpectedly, the majority of them were Latinx. So my team of 5, just 5, set out to even the score as much as we could. To not only help kids pass Algebra 1, but go on to master geometry with me, and then Algebra 2, which would position them for college acceptance. Beginning with the belief that all kids can learn the same material, just in different amounts of time, we took stock, and then we took steps. We continually redesign the curriculum. We provide additional learning opportunities both in class and after school, and we allocated funds for support teachers. But perhaps most importantly, we moved from a pass-fail model to a mastery or not mastered yet model, giving students time and support to get there. So what's happened? Over a few years, 50 failures per year has become 10. More and more BIPOC students are choosing advanced placement classes. Surly adolescent kids are actually smiling when they walk in the room. They're sitting up straight and speaking positively about their skills. Recently, I spoke with the students about their choices for next year, post-geometry. One of my Latino boys decided to push himself and take the advanced Algebra 2 class. He reflected upon his decision by writing that, "We talked, and it really is just me taking a big step forward. And if I need help, I always know that I have Mr. K to help me." The generalized idea of fighting for immigration justice scares the crap out of me. It debilitates me. But you know what I can do? I can teach geometry like nobody's business. And that, as it turns out, is enough. So I ask, what can you do? Thank you. Our next song, Cuando el Pobre, is about what happens when those that have so little actually can give a great deal. We invite you to sing along with the words on the bottom of your Zoom screen.
When the poor ones who have nothing still are giving, when the thirsty pass the cup water to share, when the wounded offer others strength and healing, we see God here by our side walking our way. We see God here by our side walking our way. When compassion gives the suffering consolation, when expecting brings to birth hope that was lost. When we choose love, not the hatred all around us, we see God here by our side, walking our way. We see God here by our side, walking our way. When our spirits like a chalice brim with gladness, when our voices full and clear sing out the truth, when our longings free from envy seek the humble, we see God here by our side, walking our way. We see God here by our side, walking our way.
I'm always so happy to hear all the music that's created. It is a blessing. Thank you. In his book, The Truth About Stories, Thomas King, who identifies as Cherokee, Greek, and German, writes that all stories that we are, says that the stories are all we are. And that hearing other stories changes us. In oral traditions, the story itself can change a little bit every time it's told. And the teller and the person hearing it are again changed by the telling of that story. When we listen to the music, the New Colossus, it is again a story, and it's a story that can change us. The New Colossus was written almost 140 years ago. And Emma Lazarus has her own story that she tells. As we look at the lyrics or read them, we also have to realize other things that were going in and happening at that time. I noticed here we are inviting strangers into a land that, as some of us as white colonizers have stolen from the indigenous people. I also notice the hope, and I see the parallels between the last stanza of the New Colossus. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest tossed to me. I see parallels within our Unitarian Universalist principles of the inherent worth and dignity of everybody. Again, another story. And some of these stories are aspirational. They're things that we don't get right. And we can look at some of the poetry written in the past and the hopefulness of it, and realize that in that time and space, it wasn't right. It might not be right now, but there is still some aspirational truth to that story. I'm going to tell you another story. And this is a grand story. If any award could be bestowed upon it, it should. This is the story of Oliver. Oliver was born And some of you might have already heard this story. I hope so. Oliver was born in Cameroon, and that's where he grew up, and he raised a family, fell in love and started to raise a family of his own. And because of the political upheaval in Cameroon, Oliver had to make a choice. And the choice was really hard. He had to leave his home, his family, his friends, the things that he knew, because if he did not, he would be killed by the government. Now, sometimes I see, not lately, but in the past, I've seen when elections come for presidential elections, people writing in Facebook or other social media, well, if my person doesn't get in, if this other person gets in, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to Canada. And it is another story. Back to Oliver's story. Oliver fled Cameroon. And I wonder what he had to choose to bring and what he had to choose to leave behind. I do know one of the things he left behind for a while was his family. He made his way in with the goal of getting to the United States, but couldn't get here directly. He had to go around through South America and come up. I don't know all the details of Oliver's story, but I do know that he eventually made it into the United States and was sent to a detention center. This is a person seeking asylum because he did not want to die, and we threw him in jail. What part of the story does that tell? Thankfully, Oliver was released from the ICE detention center and found refuge at Casa de Paz, where he was given food, he was given assistance and support. It was so impactful that he now works there. Over time, he was able to get his wife and his daughter out of Cameroon as well. And when they got here, his wife was detained at another detention facility. Although he was able to get his daughter he was able to get his daughter. So she was not in the detention facility. And then he had to wait. And he created his own stories and he shared those. And he shared his story. And in that telling of that story, he created a safe space for others who were fleeing countries, their home countries, and looking for asylum in the United States. I don't know all of the stories. None of us will know all of the stories. Some of them are lost with the people. But there's hope in these stories of the ones that get here, find refuge, get through the system, and create a home here. We are committed to immigration justice. When we look at the big picture, all the flaws and brokenness in the system, it can feel so hopeless. And yet, when we hear the stories of success, of bringing people through and helping them create a better life against a lot of terrible odds, we have a story that we can share of hope. We create a story of space and welcoming that lives into our Unitarian Universalist values. It doesn't matter the religion or the belief of what the person is that we're sharing this story with. What matters is that we can create in that story a chance for a happier ending that they might not have already had a chance to have. So again, I look at the story of the new Colossus written by Emma Lazarus, and I realize some of the spaces where it comes up a little bit short, what's going on in the times, where the story, what happened before that story. And I think of Oliver's story and the hope that it creates and the connections that we create by working towards a better immigration system with more justice. One of the stories I tell myself is how much better it is to welcome strangers, how much more I get when that happens. One of the other things that Thomas King says in the book is that you can do it with it whatever you will about the story. You can forget it, you can write a movie about it. But once you've heard the story, you are changed. And the question is, now that you've heard some of Oliver's story, how will you live your life differently? How has Oliver's story changed you? Casa de Paz, I think, started in 2014 as a way to provide a safe place for people seeking asylum in the United States. Today, our half plate is going to go to Casa de Paz and helping to create more beautiful stories. We remind ourselves of the abundance of our own lives by giving giving half of our plate away to the organizations that share our values. After you send your donation, if you could answer in the chat, when have you needed a safe harbor? When have you sought asylum? for the work of this fellowship, bringing love, reason, compassion, and justice to the world. And in gratitude for those who shared their stories. And to Casa de Paz, we dedicate our offerings.
And now we sing. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Now I'm going to invite our community into a time of connection and sharing. This is sacred joys and concerns. So I do invite you, if you'd like to share a joy or concern, please raise your hand by clicking reactions at the bottom of the screen. Look behind the more if you don't see it, and then click raise hand, and Tech Usher Deborah will unmute you. Or you might see a pop-up window asking you to unmute yourself. If you prefer, you can share your joy and or concern in the chat window by sending a chat to everyone, and then I will read it out loud. When you do share, whether by voice or by chat, please tell us your name and where you live, and briefly let us know what is in your heart. This is for joys and concerns, so please try to not do sales pitches and things. We've got so many things going on. As you share your joy and concern, I'll put a sacred stone in our sacred waters on your behalf. Beloveds, so much goes on. Life begins, life ends. In the moments in time of joys and sorrows, weave deep stories and tapestries into the fabric of our lives, creating more connection. People struggle. Sometimes we falter, and sometimes with the help of loved ones, we get up and we can continue on. Today, I pray that we may find and create more joys in our lives and the lives of others as we accompany them in the stories that they have. May love and abundance grace your lives and those of everyone else. Amen, and blessed be. Now I'm going to invite you to sing along. The lyrics will be on the screen at the beginning of the video for our next song, When Will the Fighting Cease?
When will the fighting cease? When will we live in peace? When our love breaks boundaries? When will the fighting cease? When will we live in peace? When our love breaks boundaries? When will
We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Our benediction today is by Reverend Scott Taylor. In the end, they will know our commitments by our actions. They will measure our legacy by our loyalty to the long haul. Our strength lies in willingness to bear the burdens of others. Our love lives on to the degree we choose to offer it. When the offering isn't easy. So let us choose wisely with great intention and care, knowing it is not simply we who make promises. Our promises also make us. So faithfully, friends, let us travel into this new day. Amen and blessed be.